Harris. Okay, so today we just got a quick panel with a couple of alumni that are joining us here. They're going to talk a little bit about, I see Enno's finally on, going to talk about whatever they want to talk about as far as grad school. People are in a multitude of different programs. Taylor's in pharmacy. Asia, did you get an MBA from Drury, or is it sport management?
Communications. I cannot get this down.
Yeah, and then are you continuing to pursue another degree at Shenandoah at the moment?
Yeah, I'm starting the doctoral program for organizational leadership.
Okay.
Next fall.
Cool. And then Kim, I don't know what you're working in. I know Enno is working on his PhD, I think in some form of environmental science. Kim, can you speak to your grad program?
International management is what I did for my master's.
Okay, and everybody's kind of done things all over the place. Enno got his undergrad in South Africa. Kim got hers at Queens. Asia and Taylor got theirs at Queens. Danny got hers at Queens and then left to go different places. Danny, I think you went and got an MBA at Wake Forest, wasn't it?
Yeah, I went to Wake Forest, but I got an MSBA, so business analytics.
Cool. So we're going to go from there. That's about the introduction that I've got there. Johanna's on the call here as well. She also did a full year of polar studies at Cambridge. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm still not able to operate my microphone, but yes. Yeah, I just started a PhD actually.
Okay.
But, yeah, but it's not about me. It's about all.
Okay. So one thing that most of you should be hearing is that if you go to Queens, you should have a lot of opportunities at the graduate level. None of that should hold you back as long as you do your due diligence and do well in your classes. If you get all D's, good luck doing anything in any grad school on from there. So I'll let you, Harris, if you've got specific questions you want the panelists to respond to, I'll let you take over that at this point. And
yeah,
thank all you guys for being on this call.
I have a little PowerPoint to share. It's just help us guide through the presentation. Can everyone see this? Great. Okay, so again, this is the graduate school panel. I wanted to have an opportunity for the panelists to introduce themselves. So we can start with Enno if he's on here. I just pulled these pictures from the internet, so sorry if they're not the best or most updated pictures. I see his name. Maybe we can come back to him. Let's start with Taylor then. So Taylor, just could you explain what you did at Queens, your undergraduate, something about you, and then further your graduate degree that you're working on and where you are currently?
Yeah, definitely guide me to answer your questions because that was a lot all at once.
Sure.
Forget some things, let me know. But yeah, so I'm Taylor. I graduated from Queens 2017 and went straight from Queens to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, in Richmond, Virginia, which is my hometown anyway, for pharmacy school. And so at Queens, I received my BS in biology, and I was actually a little bit ahead of the game, which was something I wanted to say anyway, because a lot of people don't realize you can be ahead of the game as well as be a college athlete, but somehow I did it. And I added a minor in psychology as well, just so I could stay at school to finish being an athlete. And so having those degrees allowed me to be competitive at VCU. And amongst interviewing for programs, I think I interviewed at VCU, Campbell University, Shenandoah. There were a few up in Virginia. So everywhere I went, I was told that, where is Queens? Are there other students that are interested? Because we'd love to interview them if they're all like you. And I was just like, no, there's no one else from Queens, but thanks. Like, that is great to know that a lot of programs are looking out for Queens now after they have seen me for the first time. I think that the education that I received and being well-rounded as well as being a college athlete achieving everything that I wanted to achieve really looked great on a resume. And I don't know, I guess I am where I am now because of Queens. And so in my program right now, I'm in my 4th year. I will graduate in May 2021, and I will be a pharmacist, which that would be a doctor. So I will be Dr. Taylor Reynolds, and I can start working at CVS or a hospital or whatever. But I have decided to apply to some residencies, which I don't have to, but I want to go as far as I can. And so I'm applying to programs all throughout the East Coast, some Charlotte hospitals as well, so I can be an emergency medicine pharmacist. Any other questions that I need to answer?
Yeah. What events did you do when you ran at Queens?
Yeah, so I was recruited for high jump, and good old Coach V threw me in everything that was jumps. So I did some long and triple as well, but high jump was, my main reason of being there.
Awesome. We'll have more questions later. So,
Okay.
Kim, nice picture of you there.
Where did you get that from?
The internet.
Oh boy.
Kim feed track and field.
Did I? No, just kidding. So yeah, my name is Kim. I graduated from Queens in 2018. It's been a while now, and I can't believe it. Time flies. But actually, I did my master's in London right after. Graduated a year later. So it must have been 2019 then, last year. And I kind of stayed in London. So I did my master's in London. Well, I'm originally from Germany. I chose Queens really, to be honest, based on the fact that the weather seemed very nice. Great city, obviously, very, very close to Uptown. And Coach V also seemed to be nice. So yeah, that's how I decided to join Queens, and then did my bachelor's there. I did my bachelor's in international studies and my minor in business, because back then I wanted to work for an embassy. So that didn't quite work out, just because I did some internships and I found it a bit boring. But that's why I decided to kind of do my master's in a more business related field. So I chose international management, which is still kind of broad. But for me, since I was born in Germany, and it's really hard for us to kind of stay in the US for longer. In fact, it was actually really hard for me to even find an internship, or I applied for stuff, but if you don't have a green card, people can't really look at your resume. So I thought, if I have to go back to Europe anyway, why not doing my master's there as well? But I liked it so much in Charlotte. I thought I'll look for something that's similar at least. And I thought London seems to be fun. So I applied to King's College London, which is pretty central in London, and they have really good programs. And I kind of wanted to get things sorted before I graduated. So I applied in November, and my graduation at Queens was in May. And they accepted me in February or something. So I kind of knew where I was going from after Queens, which I found really helpful, at least. And I also found it to be an advantage if you apply early. If you apply right after, they open up the whole thing, and you can just go online and send your stuff. I found that to be very helpful. So that's what I did. And on one hand, I guess it made things easier. On the other hand, you kind of start thinking about grad school in your senior year. So, you kind of grow up pretty quickly. But yeah, now I'm still in London. I actually ended up working for an energy exchange, power energy exchange. I'm doing sales, so I kind of look after all of our UK-based clients, Scotland, Ireland, England, and they trade power through us. So, from back then I wanted to work for an embassy. Now I'm kind of in the sales exchange side of things. It's been the transition so far, but my time at Queen's really helped me a lot, and it was great fun for sure. I keep telling my friends who decided to stay in Europe, and also it allowed me to do track while I was continuing to study, which is amazing. And yeah, good times.
And what events did you do besides pole vault?
Oh,
I heard a
that's
secret
really
story
good
about a year of cross country.
Yes, indeed. I started doing pole vault, but as you all know, you can barely do anything in the fall. So we did all the other stuff, the preseason, the fun stuff. And at conference, I still did like the 800 meters, and what else did I do? Oh, the 4x4 with Asia back then. The 400-meter hurdles I did as well, and cross country for one season. And we actually made it to nationals, which was amazing. I kind of got hurt afterwards, but it was great fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Seems like a common theme is that you get recruited for one thing and then do 5 other things.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it really helps you to also bond with your teammates, right? Because you're not always stuck somewhere in one corner of the track.
So I heard Henno is on now, so we'll go back to his little picture. Henno, do you mind just introducing yourself and telling us where you're at right now?
Hi, Harris, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, hi everyone, Menu Alumni. I'm from South Africa originally, came to Queens in 2015. It feels like ages ago, but also not that long ago. Currently, I'm back in South Africa. I'm doing my PhD degree in atmospheric science, and I'm at a university, Northwest University, Potchefstroom, and we're the top-ranked atmospheric science university in South Africa. And my specific focus within atmospheric sciences is severe weather in South Africa. And I've been fortunate enough to go back to the US a couple of times in the last few years. We worked a lot with universities over there. And last year I did some storm chasing over in the Midwest. And so hopefully finishing my PhD soon, and hopefully maybe going back to the US soon. Say hi to all my old Queens friends and coaches and everyone.
And what did you study in your undergraduate degree?
So I did environmental science, bachelor. So in South Africa, we do a Bachelor of Science in environmental science. I remember at Queens, I think it was kind of in your first 2 years, you do like a general degree, and then you start going specifically. In South Africa, and I think it's similar in Germany and the UK and a lot of other countries. After high school, you have to immediately choose which direction you want to go into. And so I immediately went into environmental sciences, and within environmental science, we had the atmospheric science component. And I enjoyed it so much that I kept on going, and there was some funding available, which is always important for so when you get to a stage where you can't really pay or ask your parents for money anymore. So there was a lot of funding available for research in the field in South Africa, and I was lucky enough to go into that field.
And what events did you run at Queens?
So I did middle distance and longer distance. So I did a couple of 800s, 3Ks. I think I ran 5K at conference on the track, and then also cross country. Yes.
Awesome. Let's see. We will go to Asia. There's a lot of photos of you online, Asia.
Oh Lord. Okay. So I'm Asia. I went to Queens from 2014 to 2018, and I originally was starting with the environmental science bachelor's, but after a few semesters of labs and that coursework, I realized that was not meant for me. So I decided to switch majors this summer after sophomore year, and then I went into sports management. So I pretty much had to buckle down the last 2 years to graduate on time. But I graduated with a bachelor's in sports management, and then I became a GA at Drury University, which is in Missouri. So right after graduation, I went to start my master's there, and then I was coaching full time on the side. And that's what I did for the past year. And then I just got this job at Shenandoah University last year. So this will be my second year here, and I will be starting the doctorate in professional studies with organizational leadership program next year. So I'm looking forward to that.
And what events did you run at Queens?
Yeah. So I did sprints and hurdles. So pretty much any sprint event, 100, 200, 400, both hurdles, and then all the relays. So that's pretty much kept me busy.
Would you say that your switch to sports management proved to be a good one now that you're coaching and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I definitely think it was good. I was definitely shy when I first got to college, and being in that sports management degree for like the last 2 years, it kind of brought me out my shell, especially since you needed a couple internships to graduate from the school anyways. So if you work in sports, like you have to be a sociable person, you have to interact with customers and fans and all of that stuff. So I definitely think that kind of brought something out of me that I wouldn't have got if I continued with the sciences. So I am happy that I did switch to sports management. And yeah, I was really excited to do the JBIB program at the school, but sadly I couldn't go the 1 year I was going to try and do it. So
The same thing happened to me, Asia. I did the class and everything, and then last minute I had to drop out.
Yeah, I got YAP, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Micronesia. And then the final qualifier for nationals was like the day we were flying out. And I was like, okay, this is a tough decision.
Yeah, for me, I got into Wake Forest, and I'm like, well, program starts like, the week before we fly out. So I was either about to go to so.
Right. Maybe one day I'll go.
A lot of the juniors and seniors that are on this call also got their JBIP stripped away from them via COVID. So I see Evans nodding his head. Where were you going to go, Evans?
So I was supposed to study in France over the summer, and that was going to include me being in Europe for pretty much the majority of the summer, going from France and being in Paris, and I was going to go to London, Germany, kind of just all over the place, and that didn't happen, so.
Dang. It's tough. All right.
Luckily, we have people everywhere, so
yeah.
Just hit up someone on the team. I'm sure they live there.
Yeah, and I think you can actually. I know some people did the JBIB after graduation. I don't know if you're. Well, I guess you haven't graduated if you're on this call. So there might be a chance to still go at some point.
Okay, so now that we have a general bio of everyone and kind of explain where they are, what they've been doing, this is a grad school panel, and we want to talk about what all encompasses grad school. So these are just a lot of different questions. Not all the panelists have to answer all of them, but there are a couple of things that I would like to know, and I think everyone else would. And you guys can just kind of bounce off each other. And the first question is like, what motivated you to pursue a graduate degree? A lot of you answered that, but what was the main motivation for you guys?
I can start. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Okay. For me specifically, because I had a degree or was pursuing a degree in biology, science is just so general, and there's not much you really can do with just the science degree without pursuing a master's or PhD or going to something in specifically that science field. So I kind of knew when I went to college and wanted science related degrees that I was gonna have to. And so I guess the motivation was, do I want a job? Or do I just want, a job in something else unrelated to science? So that was kind of my motivation.
So can I continue, Harris?
Go ahead. Yes.
So for me, I always knew that I wanted to, so let me just backtrack a little bit. Both my parents are teachers, and I always knew that I wanted to teach, and I didn't think I was cut out to be a high school teacher. And I like the university environment. I like academia, I like research. And so that for me was a big part of just continuing studying, because to eventually become a professor or lecturer, you just need to continue studying and be in the university environment. So that's kind of my career path, is I want to be in academia, and that's my main motivation to stay in, to start when I started graduate school.
And I think Kim and Asia kind of described the why to their graduate degrees. So I do want to ask what the application was like, and the timeline, what the application involved, and the timeline, because a lot of people, like you said, have to think a little beforehand before you start with the application, and getting a head start on those is super important in like the graduate degree hemisphere. So what are you guys thinking about that? How did you apply? It's a free for all. Anyone can answer.
Well, I started early, and I think I mentioned that before, because I thought, first come, first serve. I also, like I said, I also like to know where I'm going, what I'm going to do next. But for me, to be very honest, you often have to do the GMAT or GRE, and you have to score, you have to have a really high score to get into really good schools. And I wasn't planning on doing that. I wasn't planning on taking off a year just to, study for this test or pay another, I don't know, $900 probably for this test. And then I think you have to take it a couple of times in order to be really good at it. So I thought, I'll just go for the schools that are good, but that don't require such tests. And that kind of narrows it down already. And then, I just had to look at the programs, and went for the international management one. But indeed, you have to write a lot. You have to, I think you have to provide a CV. You have to kind of write a paper, what you're planning on having your thesis about. You have to kind of submit topics already, even though you're not even, really planning on writing about that, but you have to show them that you actually thought about it. I think sometimes there's interviews involved. Different steps. Sometimes I think you do have to take tests, like school-specific tests, but I can't really speak about the US-based colleges, so I'll let
Did you have an interview at your college?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know some others did. I guess they liked my Queen's diploma thing and my text, so I was quite lucky. I didn't have to do that, but I think others had to.
Awesome. Yeah, Taylor, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a talker, so I'm here to answer all the questions. But so with pharmacy school specifically, but I also know a little bit about like the medical tract as well. Pharmacy school, you have to take the PCAT, which is like the pharmacy admissions exam, and with medical school, the MCAT. So that already has you like kind of worried about it. Like your junior year of college, you should probably take a practice one. But there are students that go ahead and apply to programs their junior year. You can do that if you really, really want to be ahead of the game, but you don't have to. So if you do have like some type of anxiety about that, like trying to put your feelers out your junior year can kind of help alleviate that. But I did not. I waited till my senior year. And so this summer before my senior year, I purchased the PCAT book. And then you have to sign up for a portal. I can't remember the name of it, but all medical fields have their own little portal where you upload your CV. And if you don't have a CV, and in America, I think we focus on resumes, but I would definitely spend some time start working on a CV and figuring out what that even means, because you'll need one. And letters of recommendation. I didn't need one from Coach V, but I do remember him offering that, and that would have been amazing if I needed that. But I had to have science professors do my letters of rec. So unfortunately, Coach V couldn't do that, but he is a great person to, use that from him. And then I think the portal closed around like before the holidays in December. And then I had to interview, like after the portal closes, there's like 2 or 3 weeks after that, and you'll start getting calls of interviews, of either interviews or denies. I did interview a few times, and having to balance that with weekend track meets, because that was also in spring, was difficult. But I actually got a concussion my senior year in spring, so I was out of track for a good semester, unfortunately. So I didn't have to like fight between track meet or interview, fortunately, but unfortunately. But so if you do think about that, that is something to verbalize with your coaches and the other program that you're interested in, that you are an athlete and this is season. And then I actually won a scholarship based on my interview through the program that I'm in now. So just based on the fact that I had a good interview and that I was a student athlete. And so it was, I would say it was kind of a difficult process, but I definitely had everything planned out probably like August of how my year was going to look. So the sooner the better.
And what did your interviews look like? What did kind of give us a feeler of what they asked you, or how you leveraged your track experience maybe in those interviews? Because
yeah, I guess that's a really great question. And I can speak from both ends, because with my program now, I interview potential students, and of course everything now is virtual. So I can speak to the virtual part. If you have interviews, practice how you're going to have your camera, the level of your camera, where you're going to be at. Definitely wear pants, because there are some interviewers that will ask you, everyone take stand up and stretch. I've seen that before, and they're actually just trying to see if you're wearing pants. And there are people that are not wearing pants, but they confidently stand up anyway, but wear pants. Definitely practice with other like family members, your professors, those types of things. Just practice those questions. And I was asked, your basic questions of why pharmacy, why science. They were intrigued by being a student athlete. How did I balance the two? Which I think if you can balance being a college student athlete along with being a part of other organizations, which I chose to be in college, you are able to balance a graduate program, if you ask me. I don't know other programs and how other master's or PhD programs are set up, but pharmacy is really fast paced and really difficult. And I felt that because I was a student athlete and could balance track season and out of season and what all of that looks like, plus being a science major, I was pretty comfortable with being a pharmacy student. So yeah.
I'm going to jump in on this one too. So my experience was a little bit different, because I was also looking at the sports side of the schools and everything too, because I did compete while at Wake. But I definitely waited too long. I saw that the application deadlines were at the beginning of May. And so I didn't really, I decided end of fall semester that I did want to do grad school outside of Queens because I didn't have the program that I wanted. So I looked at business analytics and MIS. So I kind of just looked academically what I want to go here. And then from there, looked just to make sure they weren't a cross country only school. And then from there, started reaching out to the coaches, started studying for the GMAT. And I don't think I took it until either the end of March or beginning of April, and ended up taking it twice. Once I got the GMAT results in, I had an interview with Wake Forest in person, and then Pitt was online, and those were probably end of April. And then I started getting accepted in May. And I ended up applying to Wake, Pitt, and Duquesne. But yeah, definitely start the process early. It's a lot less stressful because I ended up studying for the GMAT while in season. And even I took a visit out to Pitt, and it was technically in between indoor and outdoor, but even then my schedule was pretty busy. So start early. Just save yourself.
yeah, I think a great general consensus is figure out what the prerequisites are, if there's class prerequisites, especially in the sciences, and then B, taking a test or tests early and then applying early as well. That's something that to plan on. And a lot of people do take gap years as well, so that's also an option. But having a plan.
Can
Joanne,
I can I add something? You definitely do apply early and pay attention to the deadlines as well, because sometimes that's for the UK. I know for the UK for sure, there are different deadlines for funding and for just like the application. So if you apply by a certain early deadline, you're actually automatically considered for lots of scholarships and everything. And some of those scholarships, that's also something to look into. They require a separate application. So it's really good to just start early. Just think about it and have a shot. And then, because if you apply after that deadline, they might accept you, but then you have to pay the full tuition.
Yeah, that's a great point. So again, general consensus: apply early, apply early, apply early. I think that's always in your benefit. These last couple of questions, you guys can also look at or answer. Like, how did you leverage your track experience either during your application process or your time at graduate school? Like, what kind of traits did you learn being part of track and field? How did they transfer to graduate school? Was there anything that was different, unlike Queens, and kind of what you enjoyed at grad school? You can answer any of those. I just wanted to continue to talk about grad school and hear your thoughts.
I'll go. Surprise. Yeah. But I did want to say something that you had said about like the prerequisites. I think for me in particular, I knew that I wanted to go to VCU School of Pharmacy, and I knew that VCU School of Pharmacy was one of the top 20 programs in the country. And so if I printed out the prerequisites for VCU School of Pharmacy, that I would be set for any other pharmacy school. So I printed those out like freshman year, and every year, every semester, I'd like cross out like the prereqs that was needed for that program. And I knew that I was set up for the rest, which aligned with my degree perfectly. But the other part was, now I forgot what I was going to say. So in preparation, especially in science, you're always trying to think about how can I be competitive? Because it's such a competitive field, whether it's pharmacy, PT school, OT school, all of that is high in demand and highly competitive. And I think that co-aligns with being a track athlete. It's an individual sport. That's what I explain to a lot of friends. Like, I spent a lot of my time in track. So yes, I was on a team sport, but we all know as track athletes, is it really a team sport? It's more individual than a team sport. And so I, as a high jumper, a long jumper, triple jumper, whatever, and I guess I did what did I do, Coach V? Pentathlon. So I guess pentathlete, whatever. You're always thinking about how can I be the best? Like, how can I be more competitive than that other Wingate person, whatever. So I think that translated to how do I shape my resume? How do I interview? How do I dress for it? How do I do extracurriculars to be more competitive? And I think that mentality was from track and pretty much track only.
No.
I can kind of talk a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's see. So I kind of did the GA route, which is a graduate assistant. It's a little different depending on what you want to do. I wanted to do coaching graduate assistant, which means they would pretty much pay for either tuition, all of it, some of it, room and board. You really just have to look at the details regarding it. But they would pay for, I think the one I got, they paid for tuition and I got free room and board for the 2 years that I would be there. So essentially I wasn't paying for anything. And then I also got a stipend on top of that, which is great. So I pretty much just applied for the job first. And then once I was offered the position, then I applied to the university. So it may be a little backwards depending if you go that route. So you may actually have to apply for the job first. And then if you get the job, then you would go ahead and apply to the university. Because there's it's a very slim chance you're not going to get in at that point. And for my program, I didn't need a GRE. It depends on like the university, what program you do, but I didn't have to take it. So all they needed was my transcripts, and all I did was send that in. I sent in my resume, and I pretty much got in, no problems. But I definitely leveraged my track experience, being from Queens, and now that it's very reputable, like across the nation. As soon as I said I was from Queens, pretty much in just about every interview, they either know Vericamp or they're like, oh, I know Queens, y'all are really good, that kind of extent. So there's definitely a good thing to it to go to a school like Queens, because a lot of people know about us now, especially in the track and field world. So that kind of helped me out a lot in the interview process, especially since we were successful by the time I graduated. We consistently had people going to nationals. So I think that definitely helped, especially when I came up with coaching plans, things that I would do if I was a coach. It was very put together. I even had Jimmy V help me out a little bit with some plans that I needed to work on. But I definitely think I used the coaches, my professors, even my own classmates to help me out, whether it be certifying me for some certification on LinkedIn or something that maybe we did a project together for senior year for capstone. So it really just depends. There's many ways you can kind of use the stuff that you learn at Queens to help you when it comes to grad school. So I definitely applied late. I don't think I applied for that position until like maybe March or April. I didn't apply to the university like as a student till like May. So, but I also wasn't too concerned about getting in once I got the job. So it definitely just depends on what you want to do. But if you do go that route, definitely use your coaches as resources, use your professors, anything you can think of to help you out.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. There's a lot of professors that you have in said field that have higher degrees, mostly all of them. So they're also really good resources. Unrelated to grad school, Asia and I were classmates, and we helped each other in Spanish.
Wouldn't have graduated without Harris, hands down.
So I wanted to transition into a Q&A session. I know a lot of people here have different interests. We have a lot of people with a lot of different degrees here and experience. So does anyone have questions for any of the panelists about grad school in general? Grad school domestically in the US, grad school internationally? What do you guys have?
Harris, I would also break in here at this point and just encourage people to put your question in the chat. So that gives us a much easier way to go through in a much ordered fashion, and we can go ahead and work through those and make sure that everybody has those. And Harris, as those come into the chat, I would reread those and then pose them to the panel and let them respond.
Sounds good. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Evans asks, how much time did you all spend studying for the GRE, GMAT, or any other kind of test? What was that prep period like? I think Danny.
Yeah, so I was lucky, and I only needed 2 classes to graduate my last semester senior year, so I did have a lot of time. So when my friends were studying for classes in the library, I would have my GRE book. I tried to do at least an hour a day, and then I think I took about 5 practice tests, and yeah, that wasn't enough.
So how much studying did you do in total? An hour a day for?
So I think I started studying in February. I took my first round late March, and then took it again mid-April. So what is that, like a month and a half for an hour a day? Definitely start before a couple months in, if you know you're going to grad school, which honestly I didn't. But yeah, if you know, I would say start, especially like if you have a summer to do it or Christmas break, any time where you're gonna have a lot of free time.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. I know I'm studying for the MCAT currently, so it's a 3 to 4 month period, and you take 3 to 4 hours every single day. So definitely take your time, and it'll pay off once you have opportunities for good schools. Nicholas Cly asks, specifically Cam, could you have applied for your master's program in Germany as well?
I think so, yeah. I think I could have. I never really looked into that, just because I was at Queen's all 4 years. So I kind of, studied whatever I learned in English, to be fair. So I was kind of worried to, start writing papers in German. I mean, it's just, at some point you're just stuck in between languages. And for me, I knew when I was writing emails already, it took me forever to write in proper German. At some point you forget specific words, and for me that was not an option. And that's also why I chose London. I do believe, though, there must be some schools that also offer English programs, but I've heard that often people are not very much fluent, so it's not, I wouldn't describe them as English programs then. So yeah, that was my reasoning behind it. But I guess technically you could, yeah. I don't see why you couldn't.
Nicholas, you want to do veterinarian school? Is that right?
Yeah, so that's the plan right now, to get my biology bachelor at Queen's with a concentration in pre-veterinary medicine, and then go to vet school, which I mean is basically just, I could go there right now. I would just need to apply and do like the doctor's test and stuff, or like the medicine test. But I guess with getting a bachelor, I should have better chances with getting in.
Yeah, I do know that the programs are just totally different, so it's probably worth checking out with them already. Yeah. How many credits they would take on and whatnot. So that's always good.
True. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
We have a question from Tony. For people who ran grad school, what's the difference between running an undergrad versus graduate school? Danny again.
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one here. So I was a javelin thrower at least, so I only competed in outdoor, which did help because ACC's regionals and nationals were all after finals, so I didn't really have to worry about missing much class for that. But I will say it is ramped up. Just grad school, my schedule in general. We were basically fitting 2 years into one to begin with. And it had a lot of group work and just kind of outside time. Instead of tests, we did more projects. So, balancing my time, I ended up during my lunch break, I would try to get like a little jab session in while eating, while trying to study. But honestly, it was doable. You just gotta make sure you utilize your time well. So we had team meetings in the morning, so we normally got out of that by 8, and I'd have class into 9:30. So whether that be applying for jobs, working on projects, trying to get my group to meet then instead of at 4 o'clock like they always did. But it's a lot, but you can do it.
To that point, a lot of people, for some of the alumni, a lot of people have some newfound eligibility because of COVID and stuff like that. So that is a possibility for some people for graduate school and running as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad I did it. If I didn't have the extra eligibility, I would have never went to grad school right out of undergrad. But it was definitely a good experience. It really set me up for my career, changed career path really, because I was a finance major at Queen's. I got my master's in business analytics. So sometimes I'll do some financial type analytic projects, but for the most part, it's starting with cleaning the data to actually building a report, automating it, and then calling it a day. So not too much on the finance degree.
I can kind of speak a little on that. So I currently have a couple grad students. one of them came back this year with the extra eligibility. From when I talked to him, it's not really that big of a difference athletically. The biggest difference is going to be the academic side. You're obviously not in class as much, but the workload outside of class is way heavier. That's like the biggest difference, even from being a GA and having to balance everything. And when I talk with my couple grad students, it's more the classwork is just heavier outside of the actual class versus like the athletic side. And then like another part of it is if you work during the day, because most of the classes for grad school are at night anyways. So that's also another piece of it. I know mine's a GA, so he only works like 20 hours a week, but if you don't have that luxury and you work like 9 to 5 and then you go to practice right after, and then you have like homework after that, that can kind of be a lot to handle. So that's just like one side of it to think about, is just what kind of masters are you going to get? Are you able to handle all of that workload and do track? It's definitely doable, but yeah, it's really just your preference. Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong, Taylor, but you probably couldn't work or do track during pharmacy school.
So yeah, you're kind of wrong actually.
Oh, really?
So yes, when I was applying and I sat down in the office with the program that I'm at now, and this guy, I wasn't interviewing, it was the administration who just wanted to know more about me. He had never heard of Queens. He had asked me about track and asked if I still had eligibility. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I do because I had an injury and I had a concussion, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, if you still want to do it, you can only do it probably your first year. But you're more than welcome to call the track and field office at VCU. And I was just like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that, but you have the option. And I have worked in a pharmacy, and everybody works actually in pharmacy. Okay. You should have a job because it makes you more competitive if you can. I waited until my third year to like kind of figure out like how the flow of pharmacy school goes and how I can like manage it all. But yeah, anything you want to do outside of the school realm, you can make it work if you want it.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting, because the common advice for medical school is don't work, don't run, or don't do athletics, So very interesting. I didn't know that.
I would actually disagree with that, because I've actually run into some medical students that are either working in a pharmacy to help them out, or medical scribe in the hospital. So it's up to you. But I wouldn't go right into it the first year. I would definitely test the waters.
It is nice. Athletics does give you more of a set schedule, which did help a little bit. I think if I did have a little bit more free time, then it might have been harder to get work done, actually.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in like going abroad, because I did my master's in the UK, and you don't need any like eligibility to compete for your university team. So I just joined like the track club. And it can still be quite competitive. Like there's some really good people, but it's more like it's very free. Like you can decide how much time you want to put in, and obviously that's how much you get out. But it's really nice to just have a team. But yeah, everything's a lot more relaxed. But there are competitions and stuff, and if you really want to like keep building on your achievements and your improving your PBs or whatever, you can still do that.
Yeah, and I can maybe add with your honor there, that's the same in South Africa. So I'm pretty lucky that we have one of the best running groups in South Africa with a couple of Olympians, and it's basically a running club that not anyone's free to join, but I can still compete for the university until, yes, I think I'm actually like 30 years old. There's some weird rules around that, but you can run competitively as part of the university, use the university's high performance facilities, in our case at least, until you decide you don't want to be in that environment anymore, which, I mean, eventually you just realize like, man, I'm so much older than all the other people around me. It's time to move on. But yeah, studying abroad, it's definitely, if you want to continue running, it's a good option. If you want to continue running competitively, And maybe adding to what Asia also said, like the workload during the day is much harder. We don't have any classes, even during master's degree in South Africa. It's all research based. And also then what we start with is like field work. So like this whole week I was out, we have a weather radar that needed servicing, and I was basically out in the sun from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then it gets tiring. So I had to wake up 5 o'clock in the mornings, go and run for an hour, quickly get something to eat, get all the equipment ready, come back at 5. And if you train twice a day, that second run is really hard. And thinking about a workout then, I mean, it's, you need so much motivation to do it. But it's possible. It's possible if you put in the work and you want to do it.
We have another question. Did networking help you decide where you wanted to go to grad school, either networking with professors or internships? And what would you recommend to help decide on where someone should go for grad school?
So I'll maybe jump in again. Maybe not so much with my PhD that I'm doing now. So I went back to the university I did my undergraduate in. And in the South African context, it's more important to find a supervisor that's willing to take you. And you seek out specific supervisors and also specific programs. And maybe I can add to the earlier question, one of the earlier questions you asked. I would say don't necessarily look at the university's name. Like in the United States case, don't look at an Ivy League university and think all the departments are equal, because they're not. There's some Ivy League universities that's way below our department, for instance, in their rankings in the United States. And we're a small university in South Africa. And then a lot of the opportunities I've had was just through literally directly asking people like, hey, can I join your research program? Hey, can I join you on this field trip? Not, yeah, just being out there and being honest and saying like, hey, I'm here, I want to work. And you'd be surprised at how much professors and researchers and people appreciate that, just being honest, being direct, and asking exactly for what you want. That's helped me a lot in the past, and with the opportunities I've had.
Asia.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead, Kate.
Go ahead. No. I've talked a lot. Go ahead.
Asia, I'm sure like getting a GA position and coaching connections, that's a big part of kind of how you went about things. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So I think the networking helped more when I was applying to positions versus like when I was actually in the position working, to the point where I was, the summer before I ended up leaving Missouri to come to Virginia, we were we were interviewing for head coaches. And one of the head coaches applying for the position actually applied to one of the other coaching jobs in Michigan, I think. And he said our previous head coach was the previous coach before he went there. So like, that's how they kind of knew each other. And that's how I kind of made that connection. So it's honestly kind of crazy how everyone knows each other in track. But definitely network while you can. I think that's the thing I took advantage of most when I was in Charlotte, is just all the connections between the internships, volunteering at sporting events, because Charlotte has an event, I think, every weekend, working part-time jobs. I mean, anything under the sun I was probably trying to do. But that kind of work ethic and hustle from being in Charlotte and having those connections, to this day, I still go and see people when I go to Charlotte. So I think it's good to network, but it's also good to stay in touch with people, especially as we kind of like the years go on and we get separated. I think just staying in touch with people is also another piece to it. Because you never know. Like, I didn't think I was going to be interviewing people for a head coaching position after my first year as a GA. But it's great that I had a network to kind of go to. So I hit up everyone from Queens that I knew was looking for a job. And I was like, hey, we have a head coach position. Like, here's the info. I'll send it to the AD. And just let me know when you apply so I can tell him. So I definitely think it helps. Otherwise, I would have been very confused and scared during that whole process. But definitely just stay in touch with people over time. That can go a very long way. To the point where when I was applying to the doctorate program here, I asked Coach V for a recommendation letter. And I've been gone for almost 3 years now. So you never know when someone's experience or if someone's internationally somewhere and you're scared or you just want to like hang out with someone, like you never know when that's going to come in handy. Was that good? I don't know.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Taylor, do you want to chime in now?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that definitely I agree with Asia. I think the networking component helped me more when I was in the program as opposed to getting to the program. But it also has highlighted how important it is to stay connected to the people from Queens, your program, your master's programs, just people in general, because you never know what you'll need. And you'll never know if you're in a position where someone asks you about another person as well. So it is really important to always mind your P's and Q's. Always, your basic expectations, exceed them always, because you never know if you're going to need that person later in life, either for recommendation or if they're hiring for something you didn't think that they would have the, ability to hire for. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think what's maybe also what might also be interesting is, when you talk to lots of different kinds of people who are in different kinds of sectors, working different fields, you kind of become aware of things that are out there, opportunities, jobs, anything really, different kinds of programs. I mean, there's so much out there that I've never heard of until now. So, it's really, I think it's also good to just have a chat with random people really and see what they're up to and what their interests are and what they think is important really. I think it's always good to ask them what they think you would have to have in order to get this kind of position or whatever. It's just really good to have different perspectives.
Awesome. Well,
then grades. I'm afraid. Grades always help to get in, and once you're in, you definitely need to start networking. And especially here in London, once you start and with your masters, you can sign up to networking events and you submit your resume, and they select you, and then you can go and talk to people there, and there's HR people there, and it's just all about making connections. Also, speaking with other students from other big schools in the city, just really important. LinkedIn helps as well.
Well, I think that's everything I had. Coach V, do you have anything?
I can't use the keyboard shortcut. No, that puts us right at an hour. Just wanted to say thank you for everybody that participated in this. Our goal is to continue to bridge the gap between what our alumni are doing and what the opportunities are for the kids that are currently on our team as they go out into the world. And I think kind of what Kim said hit on the whole point of this. Unless you have those conversations, you really aren't aware of what's out there. And university is very much so a very sheltered place where you don't have the opportunity to be forced to understand what your opportunities are. I'm the same way. I was a history major, went to grad school for history, and never really thought about coaching as something that I would get into. But I use everything that I learned in undergrad all the time in what I do on a daily basis. So just because you get a degree in biology doesn't mean that you have to spend your time in a lab. There's a lot of opportunities out there, ways that you can apply your talents and skills, and hopefully we can bridge that gap by having people that are alumni come back and talk about how they're utilizing their skills and doing things in the real world. So thank you guys for joining us. Harris, any other parting words? We're going to record this. We're going to post it on the LinkedIn group. We're also going to post it or email it to everybody that's on the team currently. So if Taylor, you want to share with your friends, or Johanna, you do, or Danny, and there's maybe a professional application for it, feel free to utilize that. Thank you guys for your participation.
Can I quickly add something from the
Yes.
alumni side? Yeah, so it'd be great if we could do like more events like this, maybe with other sectors, like if people want to have a business or business-oriented event or something, or if you're actually at the point where you want to apply to grad school and you need help with your resume or your cover letter or anything, yeah, just reach out and maybe go. I think Harris is a really reliable link between the two groups. So yeah, maybe go through him or reach out directly, and yeah, we can do something, but we can only organize something if we know that there's the demand. So yeah, that'd be great.
Along those lines, Johanna, we are going to have a team meeting at some point where we invite some of you alumni that are part of the advisory board just to come in and speak about what opportunities you guys can offer, whether it's networking opportunities or, like you said, resume building opportunities or application writing, those sorts of things. We want to introduce that so everybody's aware of that. Most of the people that are on this call right now are probably not aware of the actions that the alumni have been taking this summer, and Harris is a part of our student athlete advisory board, which is a parallel for the alumni advisory board. And those two are working in hand to do things like this. So we're excited about enhancing that sort of interaction and the opportunity it's going to provide for everybody.